supposed to go. And I don't know why I didn't think about it before, but I am terrified of heights. I am deathly afraid. And I'm like, there's no way this is happening. And so I made up some excuse because us ADDers were really good at that. And I backed away from the group and I sat by the water cooler. I sat there for almost 3 hours. Kids would come over and they'd ask, hey, when are you going to climb? And I'd, make a joke or whatever. Hey, I'm hydrating people. I'm the water boy. Leave me alone. And then one of the instructors came over to me and he's just like, hey, I've noticed everybody's climbed but you. You got your helmet, you got your harness, and you haven't given it a shot yet. I had a moment of honesty and I looked at him and I said, hey, don't tell the kids, but man, I'm terrified. I'm so afraid of heights. He's like, yeah, I've seen that before. And, I don't do this for everybody. It's not really part of my job, but I think I want to do this for you because I know these kids would really love to see you conquer this mountain today. He's like, would you be willing to try if I climbed right beside you? If you didn't have to do this alone? And I don't know what your story is, but if you've ever had a situation where you had to overcome something, a fear, a struggle, or a challenge, or had a goal or a desire, there is nothing better. Nothing compares to having somebody come alongside you and you recognizing that I don't have to do this alone. And so it motivated me enough to get up off of that rock, and I walked over to the rock climbing area. Now, I'm still super nervous, and when I get nervous, my ADD is at a super high level. I get super chatty. I talk real fast. I ask weird questions, and this girl starts tying the rope around my harness, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? You from Colorado? I love Colorado. It's beautiful. I live in Indiana. You like Indiana? You ever been to Indiana? We got lots of corn in Indiana. Do you like corn? I got a corn guy. I can hook you up. Put a little butter on it. It's delicious. Right now, some of you are like, well, he really is special. I grew up hating tests. I hated tests. It might have been because of the trauma that I experienced in elementary school. Because in elementary school, there are a lot of weird tests. It's not just a math test. It's not just an English test. They had weird, messed up tests. Like, I'll never forget the day where the teacher announced, today we are going to take a lice test. Everybody's looking around like, hey, and I even raised my hand. I'm like, Miss Shisham, I didn't study for this. Nobody knows what a lice is. And then one kid, she raised her hand, Miss Shisham, what's a lice? And I remember she described it like this. She's like, well, they're these little bugs that get in your hair and then they lay eggs and we want to make sure, and it's contagious. We just want to make sure you guys don't have that. Now, to a little kid in elementary school, all they hear is, there is a monster that wants to burrow into your head and start a village. And everyone's looking around like, hey, I hope I don't fail this. And it was always really weird. Do they do this anymore? Do they still do lice tests? Okay, they used to, maybe back in the 80s, we had a lot of lice, I don't know. But they would get us up out of the desk and we would walk to the other end of the building. That's where the examinations took place. And there were always these two ladies and they had chopsticks. And there was a stool, and when it was your turn, you go in there and you sit on the stool, and then they literally like leaf through your hair with chopsticks. And I can remember I was standing next to my good buddy Billy. Billy had what we call terminal bedhead. You ever seen a kid like that? Like their hair is like all over the place. It's kind of like living art. Every day you're like, it's gonna lean that way, and this way it's gonna be that way, and you just never know, right? He never combed it, and I guarantee you, everyone's thinking, if he doesn't have lice, I don't know, he's got something in there. But if you were to ask me, Ben, what is one takeaway from your 3 years in working with the team that you will never forget? Here it is. My third and final point. Have more coffee. Because coffee builds community. When you take the time and you are intentional about sitting down with somebody to drink a cup of coffee, something magical happens. The first magical thing is you usually put your phone away. So you're setting aside all of the rings, pings, and dings, and you're setting aside all social media, and you are literally sitting and having a conversation, which is a lost art, with somebody asking compassionately curious questions, getting to know that person. We go in, Billy and I, because we're standing right next to you, and I'm sitting there, and I'm super nervous, and all I'm thinking, they're going to jam that stick into my head, crack. Anything in there? Nothing's in there. And then they start leafing through my hair, and you realize, oh, this feels pretty good.
It's like a cranial massage. And they're digging around. And I'm like, oh, this is, can you get over here? If you scratch behind my ear, watch what happens to my leg. My dog Scooby taught me that. And I'm loving it. And all of a sudden, the lady checking Billy's hair screams at the top of her lungs, "We got one!" Sirens went off. People called 911 or something. I blacked out. I don't even know what happened. I just kind of passed out. When I woke up, Billy was gone. We didn't see him for a whole week. When he finally shows up a week later, like his head shaved bald and he's wearing a lice and tick collar. And we're all like, dude, what happened? And he was loving. He's like, man, I got a free haircut and a week vacation. And everybody after that's like, where do I get some lice?
And when you get to know the people that you're working with more intimately, when you get to know their struggles and their challenges and their passions and their loves and their likes, oh man, now your culture in the workplace becomes way more dynamic. I don't know if you guys recognize where you are at, and this doesn't happen very often. I think the next largest teacher event that I've done, maybe 1,000 people. Your community is literally 5,000 people in an ice arena.
Then they had the hearing, they still do the hearing test? Do they have that one? Yeah, they put the headphones on your melon and they tell you, this is the instruction. The room's really quiet and the lady's like, she's super serious. All right, there are gonna be a series of tones. If you hear a tone, raise your hand. Raise your hand coinciding with the ear that you hear the tone in. And then you hear like, right? So God's blessed me with a weird sense of humor. I don't know if you picked up on that yet or not. And I decided, I was in a weird, goofy mood. I decided I'm not gonna raise my hand at all. So there are a million tones, and after a few minutes, she's thinking the thing's broken. She's messing around with the buttons, and I'm just sitting there kind of like looking around aimlessly. And then when I saw that she was really getting confused, I started to laugh really loud. And so she got even more nervous. She looked at me, I'm like, Mr. Glenn, what are you laughing at? I said, the guy who's talking in these headphones, he's telling a funny joke. He's hilarious. Then I had to take a psychiatric test, and things have never been the same. So I finally asked her, like, hey, what's your job? And she says, well, my job's pretty important. You see this rope I'm tying to your harness? I'm going to be holding the other end so that if you're like climbing and you slip a little bit, you won't fall. I'll catch you. I am not exaggerating. This girl was this big. She looked like she was fresh out of the Shire, okay? Her brother was probably Bilbo Baggins. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, what do you get, me big, you little. And I'm trying to explain to her, I'm like, lady, if I'm climbing this rock face and I fall, you're going straight to the top. This is not a ride at Disney World. And so she's like trying to tell me it's like physics and pulleys and all that. And the instructor comes over and they're trying to, hey, we've done this before. Have a little bit of faith. All right. So I start climbing, and I get 5 feet, 10 feet. I get like 20 feet off the ground, and I get stuck. So for the whole time, it was kind of like leaning in like this, and I get 20-some feet off the ground, it goes like this, and I'm like, I don't know what to do now. It's not like a rock wall where, it's painted gray with these little bright things that stick out that practically scream out, grab me. Now, you got to feel around to get a little foothold and pull yourself up, and I'm stuck. You guys have schools all over the place, and some of you have got similar jobs. And so I know that you won't have the opportunity to have a cup of coffee today. I know you won't have a chance to get to know individuals today. But if you leave here with the intention of, hey, I'm going to get to know somebody from a different school district or from a different area with the same job, something magical will happen. You'll have the opportunity to lift each other up when you get knocked down. You have the opportunity to share new ideas, to problem solve. But if anything else, you'll have an opportunity to sit across from somebody that you can relate to who endures the same things that you endure day in and day out. You will build community. But he screams over to me, he's like, Ben, stop. And then he screams something down to his person holding his rope. And then what he did next, I have never seen before except for like in the movies. It was the coolest thing ever. He somehow jumped away from the rock face and he started to swing over to me. And I thought for sure that dude is going to drop kick me off the side of the mountain. He's going to, bam. But somehow he masterfully stopped within inches of me.
I'm shaking now. I'm like, don't ever do that again. He said, hey, first of all, I'm still here. You're not alone. I'm still here. Let's beat this thing. I know exactly where you're at. If you reach up with your left hand, I will give you a nudge, but I can't do it alone. I will give you a nudge. There's something for you to grab onto with your left hand. Reach up with your left hand, grab it. Let's get to the top of this thing. And we did. We got to the top, and when I came down from that mountain one day, I realized something. I will never, ever climb a rock again.
This is all I've ever done. I've traveled around almost for 30 years slinging chalk on a canvas, and I've traveled everywhere you can imagine. I've spoken to every size group imaginable. I can remember standing on a stage with 70,000 people in this dome. When you have ADD, that's really hard because then they give you a microphone and everything echoes. And I remember standing on the 50-yard line, and I'm getting ready to do 3 of these drawings. And they're like, hey, just say a couple words. And I get out there, and I'm like, my name's Ben Glenn. 2 seconds later, I hear back, my name's Ben Glenn. I'm like, no, my name's Ben Glenn. Spoken to all these NFL football teams, all these corporations, all of these things, right? All of this stuff. But one thing that I have learned is that there's nothing more tragic, more challenging, than when an individual gets caught into stinking thinking. When life hits you with the struggle, when life throws a curveball at you, the last thing you should do is go and isolate. I had to share with my kids. I had to give them visuals. I'm like, hey guys, you ever watch the Discovery Channel? You ever watch it when you got the little tiger or the lion out there and they're chasing the little Bambis around? Which one gets eaten? The one that's by itself, not the one that's in the herd. There's a message there, isn't there? I isolated. I got away. And when you get away and it's just you and yourself, man, sometimes our brain just goes dark. And so I grew up for many, many years isolated, stepped away from people I didn't want to be made fun of. I thought I was protecting myself. You know, you build these emotional walls through the hurt and pain. And so by the time I was in the 9th grade, I was a loner. Now, I'm grateful that I had a chance to track down my teachers and give them all big bear hugs. I can remember when I found Mrs. Steelberg. I was setting up my gear. Their school had hired me for an event, and she came into the gymnasium. I ran at her. She was afraid. I'm a big guy. And I finally gave her that big bear hug, and I got to say those words that I wanted to say so many times. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for helping me find it. And so for the next 12 minutes and 33 seconds, as you're watching a man with ADHD attack a bedsheet from Target with chalk, let this sink in. Let it take root. You make a difference. Thank you for what you do. Enjoy this drawing. Go ahead and start my music.